This episode was recorded last fall and will be airing more new episodes that we recorded before hiatus every Thursday through Halloween. Also, check out Dan's stand-up special, Dance Fatty Dance, on YouTube and subscribe to his new pod, Burbs Bros, with Sean Donnelly. Enjoy the show.
I let you go. You think you could fly?
The good son.
What do you think this is, a game?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the It Couple Patreon, and we just watched The Good Son, so
boy.
So you didn't have to.
Yep, we sure did.
We made Spaventa. Now, here's my inspiration for selecting The Good Son.
Talk to
When
us.
I was a kid, I was a huge, obviously like everybody, I was a huge Home Alone fan because I was a kid. You were too young probably for it, Spaventa.
So can I be honest with you? I watched Lost in New York way more than I watched the original.
But that's because you're younger than me.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. But I was like obsessed with Home Alone.
So
like,
was
every
I.
kid was obsessed with Home Alone. Macaulay Culkin was the fucking coolest.
Oh my God, him and my girl swoon. Like,
yeah, exactly. And then I remember when The Good Son came out, everyone was kind of excited. The reason that people were excited is because we're gonna get evil Macaulay Culkin, and in actuality, like, the character in The Good Son is not that much different from Kevin McCallister in Home Alone.
Very true.
Like, it's like maybe one chromosome different. Like they're seriously like they're both on that like kind of sociopathy trajectory. It's just that in Home Alone they do it to burglars, and in this they do it to a dog. So it doesn't. It's bad. But Spaventa, you think this is the worst movie that we've covered on the podcast?
Worse than Uncle Sam, yeah.
You think it's worse than Uncle Sam?
Oh, come
Yeah.
on now. The scenery here is much
I don't
nicer.
think it was worse than Uncle Sam or The Exorcist.
I really... So, I don't love creepy kids in horror movies. It doesn't...
Do you don't love it because you're creeped out, or you don't love it because you think it's kind of corny?
I think it's kind of corny. I think it's
Yeah.
really a hard thing to ask of a child to do that. And I
Right.
think this
Well,
script...
we just saw it with The Exorcist,
Right.
honestly.
Right, it is.
But
It's a
the-
lot
With
to
way
put
better
on
actors,
a kid.
by the way.
Yeah.
Elijah Wood, by the way, as a child actor, phenomenal.
Well, he's good, but we'll talk about it.
Go on.
I have my own opinions.
Go on.
No, I mean, I don't think Macaulay can pull this off. I don't think any kid could have pulled this off. And seeing him in this role is fucking weird. It's odd.
It's
Well, that's why it was a breakaway from like the cuddly, cute Home Alone, Kevin McCallister, and he was the nerd and my girl, and then he did
It's like
this movie.
is this R-rated?
this is R-rated or PG-13. I think it's R-rated because there's one fuck in it. But
Oh, he said, "Don't fuck with me."
don't fuck with me, kid.
And I loved it. I screamed.
Here's the thing is I actually think he is acting like a disturbed kid in this, but still he's not a good actor, if that makes sense. Like, this is how a disturbed kid would act. But
Right.
There's nothing particularly compelling about Macaulay Culkin. The reason that like Home Alone is so great is because it's a great movie, and he's acting like a kid in it. In this, he's kind of acting like a kid in it, but it's not a great movie, so the movie just sucks.
Okay, here's a huge problem I have with this is that like you don't really get a sense of any like what made Macaulay Culkin Henry. What made Henry like this? He was jealous of his little brother getting attention. Like what is the motivation here?
Well, here's the thing.
Well, he was
that's
a
crazy
sociopath to begin
is
with.
that this was written by Ian McEwan, who's done a ton of stuff. Like, I'll just give you his bibliography. As far as like novels, he wrote Atonement, which
Jesus.
was like the
Oh my
Oscar.
God.
Yeah, Atonement. So he wrote that. I believe he wrote Sweet Tooth, which is getting, I think, a lot of love. Yeah, man. I mean, he wrote The Imitation Game. So he's done a lot, dude.
And they can't all be winners,
No, they can't all be winners. I guess Imitation Game is not the one you're thinking of, though. I apologize, but he's a good writer. He's known as one of the greatest British writers, and this is not a good movie.
I just think it was the acting, quite honestly.
The whole like problem child thing.
What's the bad seed?
Yes, yeah, the bad seed. Oh, I like the bad seed a lot.
Which is great, but
Yeah.
this is not the bad seed. But it's in the same vein
I mean,
as that.
I'm sure we can find one example of it being good, but there's a lot of misses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Good Son, it's an American psychological thriller directed by Joshua Ruben and distributed by 20th Century Fox.
Mm-hmm.
It was written by English novelist Ian McEwan. Again, huge literary star, guys. It was released September 24th, 1993. Grossed 12.5 million during its opening weekend and made 60 million worldwide with a budget of 17 million. So a relative success, a relative box office success.
Right.
This wasn't a huge bomb. In this, we have Macaulay Culkin. We have a very young Elijah Wood. Wendy Crewson, who plays the mob. David Morse. Daniel Hugh Kelly, who plays Macaulay Culkin's father, and Jacqueline Brooks. So we open we open with Mark Evans, who's played by Elijah Wood. His mother Janice has died. They're out west in Arizona. His father Jack is about to go on a business trip to Tokyo, and he's got to get rid of this kid for a couple weeks, which we'll come back to, like, how the time, like, so much of this movie doesn't make sense because of the timing. Because he talks about, first, this is how you know it's going to be a bad movie starting off, right? Is that, like, in the beginning, he's like, I got to go on this trip to Tokyo. Like, I have to do it right now. I know I should be with my son, but I have to go on this trip to Tokyo. It's going to set me and my kid up for life-saving money. But then he decides to take a 3-day road trip with his kid throughout the United States, where they're driving from Arizona to Maine. So it's like he had enough time to drive this kid for a 2-week vacation. It doesn't, like, why wouldn't you just stay in Arizona and then fly the kid out? Like, none of it really makes any sense. They basically just do that. So they have one scene where Elijah Wood runs away from the car, so you know that he's upset and going through shit. But it makes no fucking sense.
Right.
So he ends up, like, with this his uncle and aunt and cousins who he hasn't seen in 10 years, so he's never really met them, right?
I mean, you know, but is he working with the brother too? Because the brother's at the funeral.
Right.
The mother isn't.
Right.
So that's another thing that's confusing.
The mother's
about
home with
this.
the kids in Maine.
At the funeral, we see the brother there. So we assume that the brother, but I guess the brother flew out for the funeral.
Wallace, right?
Wallace.
Right.
They're also working together on whatever life-changing money they're going to make in Tokyo.
In Tokyo, which only he can go to. Wallace doesn't have to go, by the way. Wallace, who has a complete family.
Wallace doesn't have to go, which that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they're working together, why doesn't fucking Wallace go there?
It's like, oh, I'm going to abandon my son with my brother's family versus, hey, why don't, maybe I should spend time with my son right now while we're both grieving. Instead, he's going to, like, get his dick sucked in Tokyo.
Well, I don't know if he was just going to Tokyo to have his dick sucked.
Yeah, well, no,
I feel like he could have a much shorter flight somewhere else.
The mom just died. He's going to one of those cafes in Tokyo where you hire somebody to be a babysitter,
Nevada,
and he's like a little kid.
Prostitution is legal, and go to, like, the bunny ranch. Like,
what if he just went on an Asian sex trip during this? He's like, hey, mind if you stay here with Elijah? I got to go to Ladyboy Lane. But he drops him all the way to Maine. He drops him at this house. So the mother, Susan, is very nice. She's wearing, like, the 1993 like Demi Moore crop top haircut, like the little mushroom cup, like that a ton of women were wearing.
It was a reflection of how kind a mother could be when she cut her hair. Yeah, because it meant you spent less time on your hair and more time with your children.
That is true. That was a weird. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of movies with moms with long hair, and if you do, they're usually like hillbilly, like nightmares that want to fucking terrorize their kids.
I never even realized
that. A cute short bob or something.
You think that's what CPS checks for first? When
yeah,
they go to a
100%.
house?
They're like, how long is that bitch's hair?
They're like, yeah, if the girl comes out with a perm,
Dyson. That's going to take a minute.
The mom has a perm, they take the kid away.
Yeah.
Okay, for a movie that's under 90 minutes, it takes a while for something even remotely weird to happen.
And this is creepy, but not for the reason that they think it's creepy.
Right.
Which is, he gets to the house. Macaulay Culkin is wearing a paper mache mask
that he
made.
Clearly made.
And he made another one for Elijah Wood. And then he gives the mask to Elijah Wood, and they stare at each other. And I know what the director was thinking. The director was thinking, we're having the good and evil stare off at each other. We're setting up the big fight throughout this, the big conflict throughout this whole movie. But it just looks like they're about to kiss. Mm-hmm. There's like a couple moments where they're like just standing next to each other, breathing. And I'm like, because it's very back and forth and very James Bondy, like the dialogue between them of like, oh yeah, I out clevered you this time. That's like what the good son is saying, the evil son is saying all the time. It feels very like flirty and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's uncomfortable. Am I the only one who noticed that?
Wait, say that? No, don't say it all again. But like, what's your point?
Can you get off your phone
while
I'm trying to talk?
The plot.
They were like looking at each other. There's moments where he has the two kids like look at each other for a long time, and you think, are they about to kiss or something?
Yeah, we said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Did you notice that?
Yeah, definitely. Like they're kind of doing this this tango throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's like True Lies or something.
Yeah,
it's very bizarre.
And I mean, they're family, so there is this.
I mean, but when's the last time they saw each other? She said she hadn't seen the kid since he was a baby.
Right.
So, which means he never met those cousins.
And spoiler alert, guys, they have a death in the family as well. Apparently, there was a younger brother who drowned in the bathtub, and Susan can't forgive herself because she went to go answer a call for like 2 seconds. And the kid drowned.
And he was in not a lot of water. And the kid in the picture, by the way, who looks exactly like Macaulay Culkin, is his younger brother, Rory, who's a fabulous actor.
Yeah, the whole time I was like, man, I wonder if Rory was watching this movie, by the way, and was like, I could have fucking nailed this shit.
Well,
why did they bring him? What the fuck? They brought in the sister?
The sister
like,
Quinn was.
Give me the Quinn role. Like the whole, like, because, Quinn's not great. Macaulay Culkin's sister is in this movie, and she's not the greatest child actor.
So yeah, Henry says like, "Oh yeah, I saw my brother drown in the tub. He was all blue." It's like, ew. Like yeah. It's just so already you're like, okay, like
he's just a creepy, sadistic child. You can just tell.
Moving on in the plot, Henry begins to display psychopathic behavior, which Mark is unable to address to Wallace and Susan due to Henry's threat. So every time he does something crazy, like Macaulay Culkin like steps in and is like, you sure? You sure you want to do that? You sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
Which the way I'm saying it makes it sound like Cartman, but there are several times in this movie that feel like a South Park episode, particularly the end of the movie. But we'll talk about that.
Mother, jeez. It feels he becomes Cartman.
Yeah, it feels very much like Kyle and Cartman fighting. It feels very much like that. This entire movie. But Henry begins to display psychopathic behavior, which Mark is unable to address. One of the violent actions, this is how we know he's a real psycho, is he throws a dummy he calls Mr. Highway off a bridge and onto a highway, causing a massive vehicle pileup. Can we talk about this moment? First off, like, there's like nobody in these cars. So the accident happens, and then we just see empty cars. So it kind of looks like a scene from The Stand.
Right.
Like it's a post-apocalyptic scene.
Yeah.
They couldn't. They spent $17 million on this movie. They couldn't have had.
I'm sorry. I needed to see like a bloody body on the road. Like there was nothing.
Yeah, I wanted one day player to just go, I'm gonna sue. Like something. They don't mention any injuries. They're like,
no, they're all in.
Oh
in
no,
the hospital.
Say it's a miracle no one died today.
Yeah. So it's like okay, so then it just takes the stakes away. Like who cares?
Yeah, then takes the stakes away
because he killed the dog already.
Well, at this point,
he caused a lot of vehicular damage.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like it's weird because no one dies, and right before this. Macaulay Culkin shoots a dog that was barking at them
with a crossbow,
and that he made himself.
And Elijah Wood never think, and they bury it in a well. They throw it down a well, and Elijah Wood never has like the onus is never on Elijah Wood to tell the parents about that. But as soon as he does the Mr. Highway thing, he wants to tell the parents about it.
Because he realizes this kid is fucked. There's also little subtle
but wouldn't you do that after the dog? That's what I'm trying to say.
No, because he really didn't know his cousin that well, and he thought it made sense. Like he had to do it again for him to prove that he was psychotic. Because Elijah Wood's probably like,
I guess you're right.
Maybe he's just
Also, the scariest thing about it is a guy named Mr. Highway. That's the scariest thing.
Yeah,
about
I
the
fucking hated that dummy.
You hated dummy.
Also, one thing I said to Dan while watching it, how busy is that fucking country road in Maine? There were like 15 cars that piled up. Are there 15 people that live in that town? Hey.
I don't know. I also know it's like this is just a tough movie to watch in general because, there's movies like We Can't Talk About Kevin, which is about like a fuck up kid, Tilda Swinton. It's really good. It's actually played by that guy who got in all the trouble, the kid
Ezra Miller,
who plays the
baby.
kid, and he's really good in it.
He's great in it because he plays a good sociopath.
Yeah, he plays a really good sociopath.
We need to talk about Kevin.
Kevin. So like, there's examples of this type of movie being good. But like, I guess maybe because this was pre-Columbine, I don't know why. Like like Macaulay Culkin comes across as very mustache twirly in this.
I think they thought just having Macaulay Culkin in this role would like be enough to make this movie shocking or something.
Yeah.
But none of this stuff is that crazy.
No, it's not that crazy.
It's just like a little rambunctious boy.
He
did kill his brother, though, and I think we all need to hold hands and agree that that's not a rambunctious.
We will hold space for the little brother.
Yeah, that is a psychopath.
Yeah, terrifying. That's. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
And he did that clearly like a year or two earlier. Like, I don't know how old the kid was.
And I guess the proof they have is he was like holding on to the rubber duck
and hit it because it was his rubber duck from the beginning.
So did he just kill his brother over a fucking duck?
Yes, he was jealous of the attention.
We're jumping the shark a little bit. Okay, so then like the whole character is Macaulay Culkin. Basically, the kid is just like, it's mine. Mm-hmm. So in all of the movie, it's like he's jockeying for the sister's, and when he realizes that like the sister likes Elijah Wood more, he's going to kill the sister. Mm-hmm. So they get to the ice skating rink. He pushes her onto the ice that's not supported. Mm-hmm. She falls through into the water. He feigns trying to rescue her, but clearly doesn't. Mm-hmm. And then you see her under the ice, and this is when I know the movie's bad because she's under the ice tapping the glass, and me and Sarah just burst out laughing. We're like, this is like Willy Wonka or something.
Stupid. It is like Willy Wonka. It's Augustus Gloop.
Yeah. Well, Henry's like he's like whoop, whoop, like pretending he's gonna help her up, and like nobody's doing
adults.
anything. Yeah.
There are two fucking kids on the ice that just one fell through. Adults run out, and it's not until like a couple minutes later where the girl disappears that these two men with sledgehammers
I don't know what the procedure is on a.
And all these parents were standing back. They were like, behind a yellow rope that was there.
Were their parents even there?
I don't know.
No, because remember, what's his name comes down and he already knows he's a psychopath. And Elijah Wood's like, where are they? And he's like, they took Quinn ice skating. And then he freaks out. And also, we should talk about how everything in the town is 1 second from everything else.
Well, yeah, but a bigger thing that I bumped on with this movie is that one of the one of the elements of the A plot, I guess, is they want Elijah Wood to meet a therapist. Now, call me crazy. Right. Mm-hmm. This is a 2-week period, right? So the kid's just supposed to be having fun for 2 weeks, but they give him a trauma therapist during that 2 weeks. Instead of just like letting the kid have fun, they give him a trauma therapist, and everything in this town is like, and this is what Sarah was alluding to. Everything in this town is miles away from one another. So it's like, and Elijah Wood is always like, he's got to like run 2 miles to the trauma therapist. He's got
in the ice ring,
and none of it's
like,
scary. It's
shit.
all beautiful looking. It's all where Manchester by the Sea was shot. It was the same area.
There's so many locations in Maine and in.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a horror movie. Like, I guess that area could feel like a horror movie, but the way they shot it, it does not feel like a horror movie at all. It just feels like, this is a really lovely place to have a bed and breakfast,
Right.
That scene was just too goofy. It played more like Three Stooges or something. And then like maybe if they had like actually killed her off, it would have been like, holy shit. But she survived. She was like fine.
Yeah, she was fine. My question is, guys, do you think this version of Macaulay Culkin, the bad boy version, is the one Mila Kunis fell in love with? Or do you think it was the Home Alone one?
I got a really great Mila Kunis, Macaulay Culkin story.
All right.
No names mentioned.
Well, you just mentioned 2 of them.
No.
You literally
my
just
friend
mentioned
that was there.
Okay.
I'll tell you the friend after. One of my friends was in a hotel room next to them. How did she know? Because the company we worked for was doing.
He kept slapping his hands together and
going, And she walked up the stairs and a giant paint can hit her in the head.
Yeah.
No. She was next door to them and could hear them fucking like
Whoa.
rabbits. So
God
maybe,
bless him.
I mean, like she's like moaning, screaming.
Wow,
She's
good
like,
for-
so he can give it.
Yeah, no.
So say what you want about Lil Macaulay.
She's like, well, Home Alone anywhere by my pussy. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Am I right?
He's probably really good at fucking because he doesn't have to work anymore, so he's no stress.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just kept.
This
going-
was like 20 years ago, I want to say. 15. at
I'm
least.
sorry. I just kept back to the therapist. I just kept going back to the therapist because it's like, he's like, you took your mom just died. You're going to a vacation town, and it's like, do you want to go? It's like going to Tahiti, and you're like, fuck parasailing. Let's get into my trauma. You know, like it doesn't make any sense. Not to mention the therapist is completely fucking useless. Can we also agree that in this movie, like for like all the things, if Macaulay Culkin just didn't try to kill his mom at the end, spoiler alert, that's what
Right.
happens. He tries to
Right.
kill his mom. He would have been hired by Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, like for sure. Like a weapons company would have been like, after they saw the weapons company saw him like kill that stray dog, they'd been like, hey, we think you'd make quite a home here at Blackwater, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
He built his own crossbow? Get out of here. Like,
He
what
built
is
it,
this?
and instead
doesn't
of like,
Home Alone.
yeah, that's the very Home Alone Kevin
It
McCallister.
is. He doesn't. It's the character.
He's
in
also
Home Alone,
allergic.
just the darker.
The kid was
it's
also
dark Kevin McCallister,
allergic
this
to
whole
bees.
movie.
He was also allergic to bees, but it's the winter.
Wait a minute. We need to talk about Kevin McCallister. That should have been the name of the movie.
God damn it.
Eventually, Mark tells Susan, and then she straight up slaps him across the face in this movie, like
Right.
just fucking.
Yeah, hitting a child
Jacks
is,
this kid.
Yeah, that's a lot. There was no call for that. But she didn't want to hear, she didn't want to hear a bad word about her son.
And she probably also always suspected.
Well, she starts to suspect
Because why was he in the bathroom?
Well, okay, we should get to this part. We had said it before. Is that she ends up like after Mark says that she starts to suspect it. She goes to like his little shed or treehouse or wherever the fuck Macaulay Culkin, wherever he makes his crossbows.
somehow he's in like an
Yeah.
adult, older male's cabin with all of these supplies.
Yes,
and I'm like,
he's in the Unabomber's cabin. He's in Ted Kaczynski's cabin. She gets in there and she finds the rubber ducky that her boy who died. She finds the rubber ducky in his Ted Kaczynski Unabomber shelter.
hidden.
And she confronts him. She's like, "Wasn't this your brother's?" And he goes, "It was mine
It was
first."
mine first.
That's how you know. Like that's the big heel turn. It was mine first. So then she starts like while Elijah Wood is not being believed by the father and everybody in the house.
He believes the food to be poisoned.
That's the big thing.
That's
I
the
forgot
big
about
thing.
that. Yes,
That's why they
Spaventa.
think he's
it's
psycho.
kind of it's a lot. He seems like he's going insane. I mean,
Yeah.
he's throwing.
Also, Macaulay Culkin is acting like the perfect child, and he goes to
Right.
the therapist, and he's like, he walks in to tell the therapist.
That's why they have the therapist, just so they
Yeah,
could have that
just
scene
so
of
they
being
can
like,
have that
"Oh,
moment.
this kid is so nice. Why would you think he was anything but a good son?"
Right.
Who
Who's
are you
not
gonna
just
believe?
his
He
parents.
couldn't be a bad son.
He's the good son.
It's like this one kid's been through a lot of trauma, and this one kid's like your son, who you know. So it's like, oh, okay,
This
of
kid's
course,
crazy.
Mark is, he's dealing with a lot. So
Also, you don't think lightning's going to strike twice. You're like, I already lost one kid. She didn't realize it was at the hands of her psychotic older
Well,
kid.
we'll get
who
to
really should be
lightning
dead.
does indeed strike twice, but
yeah,
uh,
but in that moment, she's not suspecting it.
so the father thinks that Elijah Wood's crazy. This culminates in Macaulay Culkin saying that hinting to Elijah Wood that he's going to kill the mom. Elijah Wood, similar to actually a movie that we covered, which was what's that Australian movie that we
Talk to Me.
Talk to Me.
Love Talk to Me.
He like fucking, except he like throws Macaulay Culkin on the bed and puts scissors to his neck. Except so in this version, Elijah Wood isn't crazy.
Right.
The dad walks in, separates them. The dad puts cordons him off, quarantines him in a room while he waits for the therapist to come. In the meanwhile, the mother, Susan, is talking to Macaulay Culkin, being like, starting to get an idea that she killed the son. Like, we can get you help, all this other stuff. She's trying to be a good mom about it. Even though, it's an unspeakably tragic situation, right? Elijah Wood knows that Macaulay Culkin is going to kill her. He finds out that they're off. So he ends up throwing a chair through the window. He doesn't end up going through the window, which I thought he was going to do. Like, that gets the therapist and the dad to come into the room, where he then runs past them to try to find Macaulay Culkin and the mom. Now, there's on this property, which this is, me and Sarah also talked about this. There's ridiculous. This beautiful view, like almost like Cliffs of Moher in Ireland. This cliff, where you can see everything, but it's very dangerous. No kid should be there.
There's no fencing. It's uneven. At any moment in the rain, you could slip.
Yeah, and they're right at the edge, like constantly.
She's teetering, and I'm thinking, was this with a green screen? Because how'd you get anybody?
Oh my God.
It's literally like if in the end of Die Hard, like throughout the movie, John McClane and Alan Rickman were just hanging out in that room the whole time.
Oh God,
you know, like and the window was open. It wasn't just like it was precarious the whole time, but. So she basically tells him, we can get the help he needs, but Macaulay Culkin fucking bum rushes her, pushes her off the cliff. She fucking holds on cliffhanger style. This was also right around cliffhanger. So she's climbing up. Meanwhile, Elijah Wood gets there. Him and Macaulay start fighting. They end up going off the cliff together. Once Susan gets up, she has to grab both of their arms. And this is this is a genuine oh shit moment, but it's not like an oh shit. Like, it's not like a, oh wow, this really affected us.
It's an insane thing to just like kill your mother.
Yeah,
he did kill his brother. The kid obviously
kid's disturbed.
This
is the first truly evil thing he does.
But you know why he wants to kill her? It's because she knows his secret, and she's going to put him away. And he says that, doesn't he? Say, I don't want to get put away.
I don't want to go away. You're never going to put me away. So there's a reason for him trying to kill his mom. But it ends with him. He's holding it's Susan holding Elijah Wood's hand, holding Macaulay Culkin's hand, and she ends up dropping Macaulay Culkin to save Elijah.
Macaulay Culkin, he's saying like, mom, please, he's appealing to her.
Yeah. This is what they thought. Like, oh, this is the money. This is like the Sophie's Choice moment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they thought. Like, this was going to get asses to the movie theater.
Well, because Macaulay Culkin, it was his first thing as a bad boy, and he had like a following.
But they clearly thought, like, by the way they directed the scene, they clearly thought this was going to be like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, people were going to be blown away.
Like an iconic movie moment.
Right,
whereas it's
definitely
just
was not.
It's corny as fuck. You see him like washing on the rocks, like you see him fall. It's so goofy and like. It's a bit just like, trying to be so edgy. Like, look, we killed, it's like, this is your favorite, celebrity boy, and he's just
that's
dead.
The thing, too. This is the second movie that kid died in the same year. Or whatever, one came out before.
Well, he died in My Girl 92.
Right,
so
this was 93.
He's dying by bees and by getting
This was his last movie, too, I feel like. I feel like this was his chance, and then...
Macaulay Culkin's whole career is the Darwin Awards, It's pretty nuts. The end of the movie, and this is where it's the most like South Park. Because South Park steals this in every, like, when they're making fun of corny movies, South Park does this. Or at the very end of it, they're having like a memorial for the dead mom again. It's like a year later or something. And Elijah Wood, what is the exact line? Do we have the exact line?
He's like, I always wondered if, what's her name?
She had to choose
Susan,
again.
If Susan had to choose again, would she make the same choice? Like, did she make the right choice? Like, does she still wonder? It's like
that's supposed to be the big. That's like the big like. But it's like this
makes you think.
Of course
right?
Of course she wonders. Of course, you know what I mean. It's like of course she probably thinks about like maybe I should have saved my kid and not my nephew.
And also now she's stuck. But
the movie's not about her. Like,
no.
Why is that like the closing? It just seems so like they tacked this on. Like in reshoots or something,
just did a bunch
we had
of
to
wild
add an
lines.
Extra scene,
yeah. They had to add a button or something,
and it's just like this kind of like overhead shot of him like walking in this like
it's where it starts,
terrain,
doesn't he? Start sort of in that terrain, and then it ends there.
It's very much like I learned a lot that summer.
Yeah,
it's like I learned a lot,
and that's how I lost my cousin and gained a mom.
Yeah, that's what it felt like at the very end of it, and it turns out I was the good son.
And it turns out I was the good son all along. I thought I was the bad son because my mother died, and I thought I was being punished. But as it turns out,
that's another
I'm
thing. Is
the good son.
Yeah, he's worried if he's a bad son because he let his mom die because she dies, which you know it's a normal.
Well,
grief
Dan
thing.
did laugh because he goes, "I'm going to do everything in my power, everything in the world to keep you alive, Mom." In the scene of her, and then the next shot is
the
just a
funeral.
gravestone.
She's just dead.
It's like you didn't
It's like,
really help her, kid.
you know, but what were they supposed to put? Like a scene of him like coming up with a cure?
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, she's late stage cancer.
You know, like it's over.
Did I mention that he destroyed the? I feel like I said he destroyed the food, but because Macaulay Culkin implied that he poisoned it.
Yeah, Macaulay
Right.
Culkin's now what he's doing, he's baiting him. He wants him to look
guys,
crazy.
Macaulay Culkin is the bad son. Not
Yeah.
something a good son would do. Something a bad
So
son.
this movie
would
was
do.
pretty critically panned, right?
I think it was like 70. What's the Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm
score
looking it
thing?
up right now.
Um,
Keep talking, you two.
I mean, it was critically. I remember
Elijah Wood, big horror guy now, right?
Love him.
Doesn't he like
Great
produce? He has like
career.
a producing career doing horror movies.
Yeah, he
like,
does a lot
It's
of.
got 25%. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It was on. It was.
But on
he was. And he
the
was
Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is 25 and the audience score is 54.
54 is too
He was
high.
in. He was
I agree.
Yellow Jackets, but he was also in this horror movie, like kind of a thriller, but it's kind of horror thriller where it's like he's wondering whether or not he shows up to see his long lost dad, and his dad is psychotic, and it's like it's the dynamic between. It's honestly a better version of this. Holy shit! It's like a better version of The Good Son, but it's with the dad. So
Okay.
he does know, like Elijah Wood does know horror, and this whole movie, like Elijah Wood's good in it, but he's acting. But the role is written poorly. The role is written for like it's like the way the kid talks. It's like he's in his 20s,
Right.
you know. But instead, like he's just acting like the lead the whole time. The Elijah Wood, you're like it's the lead, and then you have this weird thing where it's like it becomes a weird love triangle between Elijah Wood, Macaulay Culkin, and Susan.
Right.
Like so, the whole movie just doesn't fucking work.
No.
No, it could have been scarier. It could have been funnier. It could have. It just felt so undercooked.
Yes, that's true. If they had
Yes.
really if they had done the Megan thing where you really play towards the genre and have fun with it, then I think that would
Nobody
have been,
had a sense
There
of
was
humor in 1993, though.
there was
no-
no. I mean, if you either did Naked Gun or you did The Good Son, there was no clever way to insert horror into anything
That's
funny.
true. This was like a good version of this would be like Megan. Like if you
Right.
like
It's
I
a
guess
psychotic little thing.
yeah, a psychotic little thing like that.
But
Chucky.
with a light,
Yes,
with a light tone. Like this is
Yes.
so like grim.
This felt like
Yes.
Manchester by the Sea.
Yes,
Like it
yes.
felt like Atonement. It felt
Yes.
very
yeah.
heavy. And I'm like, well, where's the fun?
But yeah, like the whole big set piece, the cliff where they throw everybody off of, it reminds me of like fucking Casey Affleck and Michelle Williams talking about their dead kids.
Yeah.
Like that's where they should
While
be.
they're at the game, aren't they at a game or they're
Yeah,
passing
like
by?
that's
Yeah.
that's the conversation.
By
that
the
should be
way,
helping.
Dan used to send me that
All right,
photo.
we courted here and there. Yeah.
No, it wasn't about that.
Ugh.
He liked to watch the movie to feel something sometimes.
okay,
Yeah.
like this and Uncle
Spaventa
Sam.
will cut that
Yeah,
out.
let's just look, this is one of the worst we've covered on the show.
This is a bad son.
Ugh.
Ugh,
Oh.
that
When-
voice. No,
when-
thank you.
More like bad son. All right.
The worst horror
Say it
movies.
3 ways.
Yeah,
Sorry,
let me get this out. So, the
Everybody-
worst horror movies, like they don't go hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing here where I would be like, oh wow, they really went for it. It always seems very like
You don't see the dog get killed.
No.
Like there's like a ton of all the stuff that you think
You
is
don't
gonna
see
be-
the opening shot or a flashback to the brother drowning.
No,
you just
you don't-
hear about everything.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
They should have had Macaulay Culkin before the final scene. There should have been something where he kills his dad. I think that would have like heightened it.
No, kills the sister so that Elijah Wood is the
Well,
only
that's
kid
maybe that's
left.
a little too dark.
The
Too
good
dark.
son.
I think
Oh,
like
I'm sorry. You do.
I mean,
Kill
I
the
just-
dad, not the
I think it's
sister.
what I'm trying to say is I appreciate you guys trying to punch it up, but I still think it's bad.
Yeah, it is
Like
bad.
I still
it's
think
not a
that,
good
that's
movie.
like that's still not a good movie.
It's not a good
movie. It's a good son, bad movie.
Yeah, bad movie.
Oh,
Good
man.
son.
But
bad
you know
movie.
what? It's an interesting look. It's an interesting thing to watch.
It's like a time capsule, though.
Okay,
It's so
I'll recommend
beautifully
this
done.
because our whole point of watching this because this is one you probably didn't watch the movie beforehand, or some of you didn't watch the movie.
Or you saw it like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, or
Right.
like 30 years ago at this
Okay,
point.
like do I recommend this movie? No, but I I think if you want to watch one scene, it's kind of like watching Michael Jordan play baseball, where you're kind of like, well, this is interesting to see Macaulay Culkin in a movie like this, and it doesn't work.
Right.
So if you want to like, if you were interested by this, just watch like the last scene where they're fighting. Like that's really the only.
I would say watch the last half hour of the movie.
I would say the last 10 minutes, honestly.
Okay, last 15, 20.
Yeah, because that's when it ramps up, and like because up until then the preamble, it's like it's
well, it's just more examples of what a little fuck this kid is, and I'm like, great. And then poor Elijah Wood is like internally tortured because he feels like I want to tell adults this, but I can't because no one's going to believe me, and when I do, I get smacked in the face, and I'm trying to protect them. And he's a bad son, and I'm a good son. I was a good son.
Damn. And then the comedic version of this is called Damn, Son.
Damn, son.
Yes, sir. All right, that's the movie. Stay
Damn,
spooky.
Danielle.
Anything else to add, Spaventa?
Yeah, just one more thing. The last line, I just also want to say, I don't think I've seen a scene where it just made me feel really bad. It leaves you on such it leaves you on such a fucking sour, grim note. It's like this kid survived after all that, and he's still just like all he can reflect on is like, I don't know. What if she wishes I was dead?
It's kind of like all he can reflect on. He's not grateful at all. That's the point.
No.
Like, at the end of it, he should be like, wow, my aunt was awesome. But he's like, does my aunt? Maybe my aunt loves her actual biological kid more than me.
Maybe I hurt more than she
up.
does.
It's like she wasn't ever going to be your fucking mom, bro. You have mom that died of cancer.
You're not going to see her for another 10 years after
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. Like the most you're going to get is like a congratulations on a Facebook photo.
Hold on. They're not going to fucking hang out with Mark after this.
Are you kidding?
He's going to want to go back to that house?
No, the
You
company's
think he wants to go
dissolving
back?
after this. You know, like once you have to choose between a kid, like nobody's talking to each other ever again after this movie. This movie it's a mess.
Yeah. It's bad, folks. Good son, bad movie.
Bad movie.
Good son, bad
Bad
movie.
movie.
Stay spooky, America.
Stay spooked.